Good morning, guys. Scalda and Vince is in the house. God, I need a haircut. Ugh. How's everybody doing? Oh, first stream of the new year. Oh. But getting the new year started off right. How about y'all? Oh. Yeah, I need to straighten up in here a little bit too. It's funny, you can straighten up like one day and by the end of the day it's a mess again. I literally just woke up. Threw some clothes on because streaming clothing is not optional. And threw a hat on my messy hair, and it's sticking out from under the hat like crazy. Need to go get a haircut today. All right, well. Let's see here. Let's go to the screen share. I'm going to start with, I made some changes to the bus that's on Thingiverse. Mad Mike, many of you have seen him in streams and whatnot and know him, is planning on printing the bus. And so he sent me a message on Thingiverse requesting that he wanted the rear tires to look like dually tires, and previously it only had the single tire in the back. So that meant changing a few things. Among those things that I changed, I had to change the the body to widen the fender well in this spot. But that also meant I was going to have to change some stuff on the frame. So I sat down and started working on it, and then I came up with this like ladder type frame deal to replace the multiple flat panels that used to be here. Upgraded it to use the same axles as the this part of the axle anyway, as the VSV, because they work better than the old axles I had made. And I think the frame design now is better, because you don't have to print all those individual little pins anymore, or all those sections and try to line them up. It's just two pieces, and those pieces have the pins built into them. So it should make lining everything up a little easier. Fewer parts to print, less plastic, easier assembly. It's a win-win-win-win-win. So yeah, I will go back and iterate designs as much as needed. Got a US based address. Is that something to do with the mystery box and all that, or what? Which is very cool, by the way, that you're doing a mystery box over there. For all the folks across the pond. Alright, well that's the bus and what I did to it. Now, let's go. Where I'm at on this right now, I think I'm going to trash the whole thing except for the treads and start over. Because my previous perspective on it is not going to work out, I don't think. I mean, I think it would work, but I think I can do better. Which is, you know, it's all part of designing stuff. Sometimes you get into something and you go, why did I do it that way? Just like I did with the bus and the changing the frame, was when you go back and look at it with fresh eyes later, you go, there's a better way to do this. And so I think today we're going to grab just the treads off of here. And start anew. So I need that, and I need that, and I'll need one of those. So I'm going to copy those. New file. Delete the cube. Here we go. So we're going to start with just single drive gear, treads, and axle. Very cool, man. That's awesome. So the axle there is not going to be part of, I'm going to need pieces off of it, but I'm not going to use that axle. I'm going to make a, I think I'm going to make a plate that lines all the wheels up at once that prints as one piece that you snap all the wheels onto. I think that's where I'm at with that. That's cool, man. Yeah, the subscription boxes and stuff like that, I would take part in them, but the small sizes of filament that come in most of those just don't do me a lot of good, you know, because almost everything I print needs larger quantities of filament than that. Good morning, Ryan. I mean, maybe if I printed more little knickknacks and stuff like that, or designed more small items, they would be useful for me. But the fact that everything I print, you know, in order to color coordinate everything, need to be, you know, the same color, I end up needing, you know, half a roll of filament. Morning, Brian. I need to pop out the chat, so I'll stop trying to read it so tiny over here on OBS. I did not do that today. Pop out chat. There we go. True. But as far as, and again, most of them, you know, have multiple types of materials and stuff in them. And I only print with PLA. I mean, I need to order some TPU to try some things and to print some tires. So, you know, I guess that would come in handy. But, you know, I will never print or need ABS. Probably never need like wood filament, any of that kind of stuff. So, although I can see in the future at some point setting up a machine to print things like glow in the dark filament, which I know I need, you know, hardened nozzle and works best with the like all metal hot end and stuff like that. So at some point I may, you know, designate a machine for that sort of stuff. Yeah, I thought about Rhino Reel. I did. I went and looked at their subscription service, and the only thing that I guess is limiting theirs, they don't have a whole lot of color selection. So, you know, I think I'm still best off just ordering filaments as I see the color I want and material that I want, and just order it. That, and I can't commit to a monthly payment this time of year. So, all right. So let's take a closer look at what I've printed so far for the tank tread. So we'll go webcam close up here. After all, I did title this video "Tanks for Everything." That was on purpose. So, as some of you have already seen, which I have some tank tread soaking that needs to be, I need to finish post-processing. Soaking in the sink upstairs right now, because I ran out of glue stick yesterday, and so I had to lay down some blue tape to print on, and blue tape stuck to all the treads, so I'm soaking the tread pieces to make it easier to take the blue tape off. But so this piece is a little over 18 inches long that I've printed so far. The little pieces, little individual treads, they snap together. Everything is 3D printed, no additional hardware. I print them on the bed flat down like this, have a little bit of support to clean up on them underneath this piece, and a tiny little piece that you got to pull out from under the little tabs there, and then snap them together. And I would say 1 out of every 10 or so that I print, I break in the process of trying to assemble them. But once they're assembled, they're sturdy. They don't, I mean, I've been torture testing this for days, just literally sitting here playing with it and flexing it and pulling on it, and nothing's broke or come apart at all. So they work out really, really well. I was telling my wife I could almost make some sort of clasp for them and turn them into tank tread jewelry. And then the thing that was even trickier than the tread was, after I got the tread done, was getting a drive gear that lined up right with everything. So I still got some cleanup to do on these, but it lines up and fits into the treads. And once the treads have a tensioner on them to keep them taut, it should line up and stay lined up well. The outer edges go on outside this chain here in the middle, so it kind of keeps the track from slipping side to side. And then the little teeth dig into the chain just right. And I mean, I'm no longer holding the tread there, and you can see, even giving it a tug, it doesn't slip. So the tensioner should basically do that, hold the... Morning, John. But it lines up well. That was tricky. This was the 9th iteration of a drive gear before I finally got it. And so I printed a pair of them. I printed them on the ANET A8, so they're not as pretty and as clean as what comes off the S4. But I wanted to print them in that Paramount 3D military khaki, and I already had it loaded up in the A8. So the status hasn't changed. I have the CR10S4 is printing like a dream. Absolutely gorgeous prints. The ANET A8 just keeps working. It doesn't print real pretty, so I still got some dialing in to do on it to get it better, but it's passable. And then the Tronxy X1 prints beautifully, just small. The Ender 2 is still dead. Still need to get a new board for it. And the tornado is in limbo right now because I need to take the stuff in the control box completely apart to get to what I need to get to, and I just haven't had time and inclination to do it. I think February I'm going to have a lot more time on my hands though, because I've got one gig that starting not this Monday but Monday after will go away until March. My Monday gig is going away, and then in February my Sunday gig goes away for a month till March. Well, it does get cold in the desert at nighttime, right? Because without the sun, the sand gets cold and cools everything down. But the sun comes out, heats up the sand, and raises the ambient temperature. Coldest temp in 6 years. Wow. -2°C. That's, that's below freezing. I don't know exactly what that is in Fahrenheit, but I know it's below 32 degrees. I don't know what the temperature is here. I didn't look. Yeah, my first layers on the A-net are ugly, and it doesn't seem to matter what I do, because if I raise the nozzle off the bed more to get a little less squish, then it doesn't stick. So maybe I need to get an actual build surface for the A-net and put on it so that maybe stuff will stick without having to squish it all the way into the bed. Morning, Mike. The plane. De-icing the plane. You don't want ice on your planes. It's not a good place to have ice. I don't know if it's a related issue of over squishing or what, but support materials never come off of the A8 very, very good. Parts that you print on them, the supports are difficult to remove. Or maybe that's a layer size issue or something. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just slicing it wrong. Okay. Because right now on the A8, and it's the same piece of glass that came taped to it when I bought it. There's a piece of it's like picture frame glass that's just been like taped with shipping tape to the bed, and that's what I've been printing on. And stuff sticks, but I gotta squish it into the bed pretty good. And so it leaves a very ugly first layer. But it's nothing that, it's usually nothing that this handy dandy deburring tool that Trolling for Dollars sent me doesn't usually make pretty short work of. So yeah, that's the tank tread where it stands right now. Is we've got 3D printable tread, which I did put the files for both the drive gear and the tread up on for my Patreon folks, if they want to print along as we go. Which I imagine once I get these cleaned up a little bit better, they'll fit even better. And just like the tank tread, when you first put it together, it's a lot stiffer than when after you've worked it around a little bit. I think the wheels will be the same way once I get them on some axles and can put some tread over them and roll them around a little bit, that they will loosen up and play nicer too. Because I try to keep my tolerances fairly tight on moving parts, just knowing that they're going to naturally loosen up a little bit as they get worked in. Because the plastic, where it rubs against itself, eventually will kind of wear that spot down and it'll wear in nicely. And that's what I've noticed about the tread, is that, you know, now if I find one that's still a little bit stiff, work it back and forth a couple times. And morning, Matt Johnson. So I haven't connected the two ends of the tread yet because, well, I don't want to risk breaking it, since I'll have to pop it back apart whenever I really, you know, design the tank for real. Dryer went off. That's good. Stop making all that noise in the background. Because every time you got to assemble or disassemble these treads, you risk breaking something. Morning, Don. But as you can see, with no tensioner on them or anything, they'll even allow for a little bit of flex back this way. But not a lot. Versus this way, the natural flex is a lot more. Which is as it should be. Yeah, I was curious about that, and someone sent me a message about that on Twitter last night as well. I do wonder if you printed these in TPU. I believe they would be easier to assemble and disassemble, but I'm also afraid they'd be easier to pop apart, just under stress. But that could be because I have no experience with TPU and I don't understand exactly how stiff it is. But you know, I think that those little pins, if I can get it to focus in there. Come on. It doesn't want to focus. Focus. There it goes. I wonder if those little pins being flexible, if it wouldn't just pop itself apart pretty easy under load. Right, and I know there are different shore hardnesses of TPU, but you know, I can't help but wonder if I was wanting to bind up a little. Oh no, that's a very interesting idea, Scalda. Morning, D. Multi-material version. That the chain part is like PLA and hard, but then the treads would be rubber, so they would grip better. Or even just do the first few layers of the tread piece, and then you could have the PLA backing on it, so it would still be rigid, but it would have grip. Yeah, you know, um, what I reverse engineered this off of somebody else's design. Um, was it had metal pins that ran through at these points, and while that would be stronger, it would also add a lot more difficulty to assembly. So I wanted these to be snap fit, entirely 3D printed was the goal. Morning, Rodney. So I wanted these to be entirely 3D printed. I wanted them to be snap fit, so that once you snapped them together, they stayed together, and I think I've achieved that as well as expected, possibly even better than expected. And to give it a little more Ivan Miranda feel, the first ones that I printed were in red. Because that's what I had loaded up, and I was like, I'm just prototyping. It doesn't matter what color the prototype is. So, yeah. The first ones I printed were in red. I guess you can probably see the red on camera even better too, huh? If I can get the camera to focus again. Camera doesn't want to focus when it's close up. Oh well. Well, you can see the tread. So yeah, the first one, the first ones were very reminiscent of an Ivan Miranda project because they were red, and they're the ones I've been using to quickly and easily make sure my drive gears wrapped around them and stuff like that. The teeth lined up. But yeah, I had so much fun literally just playing with a little piece of tread. Floppy around, and testing it. That I was like, well, maybe somebody else will have fun with this too. And so I put that up for my patrons. So my Patreon supporters can download and print their own. Well, the tank is the current project, and what I have in mind for it is a modular design. So, what I want to do is have the treads where they're kind of one section of the design, and then body, but the body will have interchangeable top sections so that you can put different turrets on it, different passenger cabin setups in it, and but they'll all share the same undercarriage and tank treads. So that is the this is going to be an ongoing, ever-changing, constantly growing project. But I want to get the first tank done and get it out there soon. And that's another thing, with I imagine I'll crank out a lot of stuff in February, because I'll have 2 fewer shows to do, 2 more days off every week. So it's a bad thing for the pocketbook, but a good thing for the free time. Morning, Ben. I am doing very well, my friend. Happy New Year to you as well. So yeah, I expected this. This happens every year. Wintertime rolls around, things get slow downtown, and sometimes some of the places that I play, they shut down certain floors. Usually January, February ish. And so this year I got the news yesterday that the rooftop bar at the stage has been too slow lately, and so they're going to shut it down in January and February. But I picked up a pickup gig to replace this Monday's missing shift. And I work to do that, fairly often, but sometimes, I won't find a pickup gig. So I'll have some weeks where I'll have Sunday and Monday off, because my Sundays are going away when football season ends. I play on the second floor at AJ's Solo Acoustic on Sundays, 4 to 8. And the week before the Super Bowl will be the last Sunday until March. Because Super Bowl Sunday, they'll air the Super Bowl on the second floor, and they won't want music during that. And then they'll take the entire month of February off and won't open the second floor. And then it'll come back in March. So yeah, whenever I say that wintertime gets lean, it's not only that does it get lean from the aspect of fewer tourists and fewer tips, but fewer shows as well. So instead of doing 6 shows a week, in February I'll only have 4 shows a week on the books. And I keep waiting and expecting, and it hasn't happened yet, my Friday morning show to go away. Just because things have slowed down there, and they've slowed down to a point where it's noticeable. So I keep waiting for that call that they're not going to do the Friday morning shift again until March. Because see, it started up in March. That's when I got the shift, was last March. So obviously they didn't have it before March, and I don't know when it shut down, or if they had. I don't believe they had it at all. It's a new shift they created, and brought me in to see if they could if I could bring in people that early in the morning on Friday and make the bar any money, and it went very, very well. But it's slowed down as of late. Oh, dude. Yeah, that definitely sucks, Ben. But, it's not a long, slow season. It just, the length of time that it is slow sucks. I'm prepared for it now. Unlike the first year that I got here. The first year I got here, I was not ready for this. And it hit, and it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And so I ended up driving for Uber, which I hated it. Don't want to do that again. So, we plan for it a little bit better now. Oh, dude. Yeah, that would suck. Having a Pallet 2 sitting there and you can't play with it. Yeah, I want to get one of those at some point. It's looking pretty good. Either that or I got to get multi-material at some point. Period, because I want to make more multi-material designs, and it would be helpful to be able to print them and test them. Oh no, dude, I was a terrible Uber driver. I'm as directionally challenged as somebody comes. I can go the places I know all day long, but places I don't know, I suck at it. And Uber was constantly their app, their driver app was trying to lead you down roads that were closed due to construction or and so you'd run into, okay, well, how do I get there, because the driver app won't tell me another way. And so I would have to actually pull up Google Maps, pull up the address on it, and then um, manually look for a path around. And it sucked. And then drunk people that are a constant threat of puking in your car. And you're like, look, you don't want to puke in the car, dude. Let me just say, they're going to charge your credit card $250 if you puke in my car, and it's going to make me mad because you're going to shut me down for the day. Do not puke in my car. My whatever that notification wasn't lined up on my screen. That's crazy. I missed that. Hold on. Is there a place I can go back and see that? Why is the why was the notifications off way down there? Right? Dude, that's why I put it on Twitter. I put it on Twitter, taking you to the right one. So yeah, Tom, you were wanting to see. There's tank treads. The camera's freaking out. Here goes. There's tank treads. They've been nice. There's drive gears. Which will work better whenever there's a tensioner to keep tension on the tread. Which is one of the design challenges I face ahead of me next. The next things that need to be done are bogie wheels. That's the wheels that are not drive wheels. That'll be easy. That'll be just basically delete the gears from the middle of of the wheels I've already designed, and then some sort of tensioner. Because I'll need a tensioner to keep tension on the treads. So somehow I need to spring load either the front or rear wheel to keep the tread taut. Or come up with something that adjusts the tension as I thought about if I mounted this on some sort of threaded device and could turn like turning a nut that would push that out and increase tension. So I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to tackle that yet. So that's the next big design challenge is the tensioner for the tread, so the tread doesn't sag too much. Although I guess I could just leave one wheel loose and separate from the rest of the assembly, and it could just be glued in place. Once you put the tread over it, you pull that taut and glue it in place. But a mechanical tensioner would be better in case things, as they wear in over time, loosen up. Thanks, TK. And how are you doing today, man? So I think a mechanical tensioner would be better, and ultimately, but it's also going to present a significant engineering challenge for me because I'm not an engineer. So if anybody's got any ideas as far as tensioning the tank tread mechanically, something that's fully 3D printable, send me a message on Twitter or something, DM me. Yeah, I've got 3D printable springs that I designed. This one's broken. But I don't know if that would be enough tension because it is 3D printable. It's not as strong as a metal spring. I don't know if it would be enough tension. I thought about a spring. Yeah, I thought about asking Ivan. Only thing is, Ivan designs his stuff to have hardware involved too, so I don't know if he could have an answer for me that's fully 3D printable. Because as I go, I'm trying to keep it so that the only tool you need to build my designs is a 3D printer. You don't need to go to the hardware store. You don't need wrenches and screwdrivers. Later, Brian. Thanks for stopping in, man. So, I'm trying to keep everything fully 3D printed. That's why it took me so long with the tank treads to get them right, is so that they would be no additional hardware required. And would still be strong. And it took a while. It went through, I think this was like the third or fourth iteration of the second design. And then the drive gears took forever. That is the 9th iteration of the drive gear before the drive gear lined up just right. So I said that, again, I broke this one. There's the other half of it. Or actually, my son broke it, but it's broken. That's the 3D printed springs that I used for the functional suspension on the VSV, and for the cab to rear wheel shock on the Scorpion. Yeah, I don't think a big toy company would hire me. I'm too slow on the draw on this stuff. It took me a whole year to make what eight was it 8 models? And many of them shared pieces with each other, so I didn't have to start from scratch on those. Yeah, I'm by no means an engineer. I'd be a lot better at this stuff if I was. Well, that's true. You get faster at things if you do it. But, I don't know if I would enjoy it if I was being forced to do it. If I had deadlines and all that. That's what got me out to the point where I couldn't stand my job when I was a web developer. I didn't mind building websites and designing websites, but when you have deadlines and clients who are stupid telling you that they want this and you're like, that's not a good idea, and they're like, I don't care, I want it. And so you do it and you spend a week making something for them, and then just to prove them right, in the end of it they go, you're right, that's not good. And people would say, well, just take the money, take the pay, do the stupid thing they want, they're paying for it. I'm like, yeah, but if I'm telling you and giving you a good sound reason why you shouldn't do something a certain way, and you don't listen to me, and I have to do it because you're the one paying me, it's irritating. It's irritating sitting down and working on something and knowing that it's ultimately gonna just be thrown in the trash. But I enjoy doing this stuff, and I don't know if I'd enjoy doing it with deadlines and. See, when the wheel's under tension, it lines up nicely. So that's why I got to make sure when I design this tensioner that it holds enough pressure to keep the drive gear engaged. And the other thing is I've been looking at tanks, and usually the drive gears are the higher up wheels, the ones that aren't touching the ground. And my concern with that would be, I think I'm going to need the friction from touching the ground to turn the wheels. So I may have to put the drive gears on the bottom front, and then put a bogey wheel up here where most tanks in real life have the drive wheel. But from the side view, the drive gears and the bogey wheels are going to look the same, because whenever right, rear top gear, and some tanks have the front top gear and the rear top gear. I've been looking at pictures and stuff. And then there was another tank that I saw had a drive gear up high towards the back, and then the tank treads looked like this, and the drive gear was the top one. But I think in this circumstance, because I won't have a motor driving them, it'll just be the friction of the treads on the ground turning the treads, and then the drive gears will turn the whole tread and the other wheels. I think I may need the friction from the ground. I may have to put the drive gears in the bottom. Unless I go through you know, putting a motor on it and RC stuff. Which Skulda sent me a link to a couple RC projects that I was looking at yesterday, which I need to learn how to do that stuff. I have no experience with it whatsoever. None. So I need to sit down and do some research because it would be cool to RC control a tank. I might have to look at see if I can find a toy that has functional treads but has no drive motor of any kind, and see how they do their treads. Which I believe I can find that at like a Rural King or Tractor Supply, because they have those, you know, those Ertl Big Farm toys, and they've got some stuff that has treads on it, but is not radio controlled or motor driven in any way, and see how they handled it if they were still able to put the drive gears up top. Okay, because the thing I need to find is something that has functional treads but doesn't actually drive those treads in any way. It's not under power. So I can see if it's still going to be okay to put the drive gear up there, if the friction on the ground on the bogey wheels that have no gears will be enough to turn the drive gear wheel to turn the whole tread. And I could be wrong. Ultimately, the treads may not turn at all. I got to make sure when I put whatever axle I put through this, that these wheels turn very freely. So we'll clean out make sure, because again that first layer is not pretty on the A8, which leaves a little bit of cleanup to do. But it's pretty easy to do. So yeah, if the pressure is enough with the drive gear located up here, and just bogey wheels down here, to pull the tread, the friction on the ground is enough to pull the tread, turn the drive gear, which in turn will help the tread around. Or if I need to position the drive gear down here so that the friction of the ground is directly on the drive wheel, which will then in turn just help pull the tread around the bogey wheels that are ungeared. these are problems for me to figure out as, you know, I try to move forward with the design. Yeah, I've been thinking about suspension, and do I do any form of suspension on these, or do I make the wheels solid in place? Because I can do functional suspension because I did it on the VSV. Yeah, you're probably right, D. Because up top it's going to wrap around. Almost half the wheel. Well, down bottom it's, yeah, you're right. And think about that. Thanks for stopping in, Ben. I don't know. These are things that, and maybe I'll end up needing, you know, more than one drive gear. Maybe I'll need multiple drive gears in order to turn the treads without having a motor. So that the friction, wherever the friction is the greatest, will help to pull the tread around. Again, I'm really happy with the tread itself. The tread itself, I don't think could have gone much better. And the drive gears are good. Just without any sort of power actually driving them. That's what I said. Those like Ertl Big Farm Toys, I believe they've got like an excavator and things like that. That they're not like radio controlled or anything, but they have functional treads on them that when you push the vehicle across the ground, it turns the treads. But they have to have some sort of drive mechanism that the friction turns the treads across all the wheels. So, I don't know. I've got a Tractor Supply fairly close, and they usually stock those Ertl Big Farm Toys. Places like Tractor Supply, Rural King, Orscheln's. Family Center, Buck Height. all those redneck farmer stores. They stock those 1/16 scale, which is actually more akin to what I'm designing nowadays. I know I call it 1/18 scale, but a true 1/18 scale doesn't fit 4-inch action figures very well. So if you were truly to make something exactly 1/18 scale, it's not going to fit a 4-inch figure very well, because you can go buy a 1/18 scale diecast car, and you can't put a GI Joe in it unless it's like a convertible. They don't fit. But if you move up to the 1/16 scale stuff, so it's probably actually more accurate to call my designs, even though I say 1/18 scale, it's because they're for 1/18 scale figures. The vehicles themselves are probably more 1/16 scale. Somebody's Discord is blowing up. All right, got rid of the got rid of the gears off that. That'll work as a bogey wheel. I'll have to go back and line all this up more accurately. Just kind of eyeballing stuff right now. Move these out about there. And then we will, let's see. Add modifier, mirror. Oh, no. Hey Terry, how are you doing today, man? modifier mirror, Y. Ring cut. Delete all those. Not edges. Vertices. Add modifier mirror. Clipping. So far so good, man. You know, just working on the tank. Joey, what in the world are you doing? All wrapped up in the curtains. Now he's giving me a dirty look. Apparently he wanted to be wrapped up in the curtains. Which I need to get some new curtains. These suck. I know it's real exciting watching me just stare at the screen and the gears turning in my head, trying to figure out what to do next. mirror that on the Y, not the X. Mirror that not on the X, but on the Y. John. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for stopping by, Terry. A tank top. And John's not here. Well, you can look at tank treads here while you're not here. It's tank treads. Fully 3D printed. No additional hardware. Snap together. Snap fit. Drive gears. It's coming along, man. It's coming along. And before my machine crashes again, my machine crashed yesterday. I lost about 2 hours worth of work, and I hadn't saved this so far today, so I was in danger of doing the same thing to myself. And this thing is going to be huge. Looking at the scale of the wheels and the treads, it's going to be ginormous. But that's half the fun, right? Well, thanks, man. Yeah, you know, as far as I know, I'm the only one that's um, designing 1/18 scale vehicles out there. Um, I've seen, you know, for action figures. I've seen some other stuff out there. There's one that looks really good that I'd like to try printing. Somebody else made a 1/18 scale Jurassic Park truck that I'd like to try printing and see how they did some stuff. But that was his only design like that. You know, so and it was you know, a direct copy of the Jurassic Park Ford Explorer. So it wasn't even you know, the thing that interests me about doing this stuff is you know, original design is not doing something that's somebody else has done. And the reason that I wanted to do this, well, beyond just, you know, from the time I was a child wanting to make my own toys, um, is because Hasbro has let all of his GI Joe fans down. Um, we haven't had new toys in the stores since the last flop of a movie they made. And there are companies picking up the slack for figures. Marauder Task Force, for instance, makes some very, very nice figures. and what's it, Boss Fight Studios makes some very nice figures, but nobody's picking up the ball as far and running with it as far as vehicles. So I saw a need in the market, even though it's such a small niche. I saw a need in the market for new G.I. Joe vehicles, and nobody was giving them to us. So I thought, I could do that. If I had a 3D printer, I could do that. And so I started designing, and this was, I guess, about this time last year that I sat down and decided this, and downloaded Blender and started playing with it. And then I guess it was in February of last year, I was in one of Chris Riley's streams talking about one of my vehicles I designed and saying that I was planning on putting them up on Thingiverse. So I said, but I needed to get myself a 3D printer and test the stuff first. And he said, don't worry about testing stuff first. Nobody tests stuff first on Thingiverse. Just put it up there, and the community will be your beta testers. So I said, okay. And then my very first design went up on Thingiverse February of last year. And towards the end of February, I guess it was. I don't know. I go back and look at the exact date. They keep the dates on stuff on Thingiverse, and it all started from there, man. Chris Riley sent me the Trunks EX1, and I got to start printing some of the stuff that I was designing, and that only fueled the fire more to design more and more stuff. And by the time I knew it, by the time 2018 came to a close on us, you open that file. By the time 2018 came to a close on us, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vehicles completed, a guard shack, and a garbage dumpster. And a traffic barrier. I forgot about the traffic barrier. I didn't put the traffic barrier in the picture. So this was the picture that I rendered out for the end of 2018 to kind of wish everybody a happy new year and to thank everyone for in here. Now I have a lot of other models that are, as I call them, low-hanging fruit. They're almost done. But I only included the models that were finished and that somebody could print if they wanted to. Some of them are still, Patreon exclusives. But, and I included the functional version of the VSV as a separate model because so much changed between this VSV and this one that, to me, they were a separate model. And so there's, almost a whole year's worth of work. I can't say a whole year because it was, it wasn't, I didn't start January 1 designing last year. And I had some failures along the way, like the original version of the VSV, which I still think looks cool, but the model was such a mess, it never would have been 3D printable. Once I discovered the whole thing about manifold, and I went back and checked it, and I was like, oh man, this mesh is a disaster. And so I had to just literally throw my hands up and throw it away. You have the dumpster sitting on your desk right now? Very cool. I've got one sitting on the top of my closet. This is the first one with the really crappy lids. So the lids come off real easy. Which I hope my iteration's fixed. I haven't printed it since then. But yeah. Well, see, crappy lids. fall off. It still displays nice and is good for a diorama or whatever. And that's the main purpose of it anyway. Which, believe it or not, this has been one of my most popular items on Thingiverse. My dumpster. It's not the most popular, but it's been one of the most popular. But I did it, I did it because, well, number one, it was something that I could design very, very quickly. Although it's had a bunch of iterations on the lids. It was something that I could design the body for of it anyway, very, very quickly. And it was something to test hinges. A lot of times whenever I start out to design something, it's part of answering a question of, can I do this? The tank is answering the question of, can I make 3D printable tank treads? That was how the whole thing started, is, can I do this? Because if I can do this, I can make a half-track version of the VSV, I can make tanks, I can make all sorts of stuff. Snowmobiles, all sorts of stuff, if I can do this. So that's kind of the mother of invention for me, is one problem that I want to sort out. And so I sit down and make a model that I have to accomplish that, to make that model. But in the process, I learn how to do it, and if I get it right, then it opens up a whole nother world of additional models for me. There hasn't been a single model that I sat down to do that didn't have one unique feature about it that I was curious if I could do. And, was going to open up other design aspects for me. With the exception of maybe the hammerhead. I didn't really learn anything with the hammerhead. Other than the hammerhead started off as a VSV. It started off as a VSV Jeep. So what it was born out of was, let's just see if I can do the trick that, like, all the Hollywood animators do. When you watch a movie like the first Ice Age movie, where they've got all the different saber-tooth tigers. Those were all born from one base model that they just manipulated the vertices on to create a new character. So I said, well, can I use that same approach and just manipulate the vertices on one vehicle and make a whole new vehicle? So it started with a Jeep that I made a lowrider Jeep out of. Then I stretched the front end of it, and a few tweaks and a few new parts later, I had the hammerhead. Hey, Samuel. So yeah, the hammerhead was born out of just seeing if I could do the same trick that those that I'd seen those animators do, because I'd watched the behind the scenes on Ice Age, and they showed how they literally took one saber-tooth tiger model and just modified it to make all the different characters. Morning, Mike. And so I'm like, well, can I do that same trick here? And so I sat down. It started as a VSV Jeep, the green one here, and I squashed it, stretched it, and then I had to make a new rear clip for it. And I decided to make new wheels for it, and I had to make a new grill and modify the front end a little bit. But it started off as VSV. And you can tell the similarities. You can see what they have in common when you look at them. But it did still create a vehicle with a whole new style and a whole new feel to it. And all I did was smash and stretch some things. And then, like I said, each design it was tackling new things. The very first thing that I put on Thingiverse was the step van back here. That was the very first design that I made available to the public, and it still to this day has a lot of problems that I need to go back and revisit. Just like I revisited the bus yesterday. But I revisited the bus because somebody wanted to print it. And, Mad Mike wanted to print it, and he wanted something done differently. So I thought, okay, well, I need to go back and revisit it. And so I did, and I spent a good 4 or 5 hours yesterday enhancing the model. And now I put those parts up on Thingiverse. So the 9 files I added to Thingiverse on the bus last night are the new versions of stuff. The guard shack was it was a way to test putting together buildings. And it works very well. Just they're small buildings. Because I have some plans for a large building modular design, which this has given me some ideas of things that will work and things that won't moving forward with that. I won't be able to do it exactly like this because I want the design to be more modular, but it at least pointed me in the right direction. The MVS military truck, the thing that it afforded me was figuring out modular design. So taking something that had shared a common structure but could be built different ways, and I used that same structure, that same frame structure, to design the bus. So with each passing design now, the 2-door and the 4-door VSV Jeeps, they were just akin to each other because they were 2-door and 4-door versions of the same thing. I didn't do a lot different between 2-door and 4-door. But then came the Scorpion, which was born totally out of my brain. I have no idea what inspired me to design this. But it's a fun little vehicle, and it allowed me to tackle a couple different concepts. The ball joint that joins them in the middle, and the spring suspension at the top there. It was a new challenge. It was springs, which and again, throughout I'm using hinges. There was hinges on the doors on the VSVs and on the Hammerhead. A hinge on the canopy here for the Scorpion. Hinges and rotating turrets and things like that. It's just, and the more that I use them, design them, the better I get at doing them, the quicker I can make them. Which then led to the functional version of the VSV, which, like I said, so much changed between the VSV and the functional VSV that they counted to me as two totally separate vehicles, because I added a functional winch to the front of this one. I redesigned the front end. The hood is open. You can open and close the hood. The front wheels, you can turn them. There is suspension at all 4 corners that is functional. So you can articulate the suspension. You can turn the steering. You turn the wheels. And the winch is functional. You can pull the little hook out and then wind the winch back up. So, with every passing design, I try to build something that I'll be able to take and use on further designs. So the springs I learned how to make in the Scorpion is what are under the corners of of the functional VSV. Hey, yeah, pupil. Glad you could join us, man. And then the same sort of technology that was used to make the functional hinges and whatnot, I made a print in place front steering unit. So it all prints as one piece. The spindles, the axle, and the steering control arm all print as one piece. You clean the supports off of it and break it loose, and then you have an axle that has turning spindles on it. So with each new design, I try to tackle a new problem that will allow me to add those features to future designs. So the tank treads were the big thing here, but along with the tank treads, now I'm figuring out that I have to do some other things along with the tank treads to make them work right, like a tensioner to keep tension on the treads, the positioning of the drive gears and things like that. So each one presents itself as one problem that may end up having multiple challenges to get there. And so I try to tackle those as I go, but the end result when I've finished a model and I have the proof of concept in my hands, like now I have the proof of concept of the tank treads literally in my hands, I now know I can make tank treads. Now I need to figure out if I can make a tread tensioner and and if those treads are going to be able to roll off of just the friction of like carpet being underneath the vehicle, and as you go to push the vehicle, is the carpet going to be enough friction to turn the... So those are the challenges I have to face now. But through time and effort, I will tackle those problems, and I will figure them out. I'll get them worked out. I've been able to, meet every challenge I've put before myself in this design phase in the last year, so I don't plan on stopping now. Oh, cool, man. Getting a visit from John Mack and Ken. Very cool. Where are they headed that they are stopping off in Hoosier country? Going to Mount Vernon, Illinois. I pass through Mount Vernon, Illinois all the time. On frequent trips to and from St. Louis, because my father-in-law and my stepdaughter and my grandson, they all still live in St. Louis, so we make pretty frequent trips. My wife more frequently than I do. My wife goes once a month. So they went to go visit Ken's dad in Mount Vernon, Illinois, and then they're on their way back to... they're in North Carolina or South Carolina, I forget. North, okay. Oh, that's right, near Charlotte. Yeah, I'm sure if they hopped around the state of Indiana, they could go visit a lot of people. Indiana seems to be a big 3D printing state. Tennessee, on the other hand, not so much. I haven't found anybody near me that does this stuff. Kind of bummed out. It's like I need some 3D printing friends that live locally. Well, Kansas City, where I'm from, has a big group of 3D printing folks, and some big names at that, with the Chris Riley and Joe Mike Terranella. And Colin makes stuff, and Scott Hack Monkey is in KC as well. Oh yeah, man, I'd appreciate that, because like I said, I haven't found anybody near me. I don't know. I don't know who Print That Thing is. The one, the only. Well, he's not the one, the only. That's why we have to say the Chris Riley, because there's another Chris Riley who also 3D prints, but he's not the Chris Riley with 8,300 plus subscribers. Really? Well, it'd be cool to have a collaborative effort with somebody local. The Chris Riley. And the other Chris Riley was on Twitter before the Chris Riley. Print That Thing. I'll have to look him up. He's got a YouTube channel, huh? Print That Thing. On YouTube. Yeah, I've found nobody so far in Tennessee in a year of doing this, and quite a few people in Alabama, and Alabama's not terribly far away. That and quite a few people in Kentucky, which I'm real close to Kentucky, but not real close to the people in Kentucky. Which reminds me, one of those Kentucky folks that I was supposed to meet up with a while back, he just seemed to vanish. Has anybody seen James Bird around? It seems like he just fell off the face of the earth. He was like 3 hours away from me, and we'd planned at one point in time to because he was in Louisville, Kentucky, and we had planned to meet up like halfway sometime, and then he just disappeared. Cool. I'll have to check him out. If he's close, maybe we can get together and collaborate on something. Because that's the coolest part about all this is the community, and how we're one big, extended family. That's the absolute coolest part about 3D printing. I've made so many new friends in the last year, and I would say that was the thing I was the most grateful for. Looking back on 2018, was the number of people that had come into my life because of this wonderful community. Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check him out, and then see if he's local to me. Um, yeah, it's, it's been really great how this thing, um, the channel has grown, and the more people that I've gotten to know, um, some great folks, Walter and Chris and and John and John. It seems you can say John or Joe or Mike, and you can be right, or Ron, and you can be right, pretty often. Um, but yeah, I mean, and of course, Ben and I have got to know each other fairly well, and done some hangouts, which, again, this big world, and we can make it smaller because we've done some hangouts on offline stuff, not streaming stuff, and he's over there across the pond, and talk, and Scalda, and all these people, making all these new friends and stuff. It's been really, really cool, and I don't know, this community is awesome, and there were some people who were less awesome along the way. There were, but sometimes you gotta take the sour grapes with the good ones. But I looking forward into 2019. I've got a bunch of vehicles planned, and probably more planned than I'll have time to get to this year, even. But I'm hoping that my 2019 picture, because I want to do another one of these in 2019, where I put all the models I finished in 2019 in one picture. I'm hoping it looks more like an aerial photograph than a used car lot. And so it begins, Scalda. Yeah, that's how it works, man. You get one, and then the floodgates open. I got my first one on the unboxing video for the CR10S4. Right? Yeah, it kind of looks like a used car lot. It does. But I have lots of stuff coming up in 2019. We're gonna do we'll finish up the pickup truck version of the VSV. Um, we'll launch version 2 of the MVS. We'll get this tank done. I have a secret project that I'm working on with Ben with Hawk 3D Proto. It's a collaborative effort, and so that's coming up down the pipe. We've got see, I said version 2 of the MVS truck. We're gonna redo it. The tank coming. I got a couple helicopters that I've got already sketched up and planned, and one of the helicopters is going to go hand in hand with the version 2 of the MVS truck. Uh-oh. Good luck, hat people. I've been there. I'm like, I'm in trouble, and I don't know what for. So yeah, a couple helicopters. One of the helicopters is going to work hand in hand with the MVS truck, and I'll leave that up to your imagination until I decide to get to that design. We have the hauler, which is also a modular modification of the amphibious personnel carrier. And let's see, what else is there. There's plans for boats. I know Mr. Buttram will be happy about that. There are plans for some boats, both large and small. Um, some small vehicles I have planned because I want to do some smaller vehicles because I think a lot of the trouble getting some of the people into printing some of my models is that they're big and they're a lot of pieces. So if I can simplify the process, make some smaller vehicles, I think maybe it'll get some more people interested in printing some of my stuff. So I have like a go kart that's been low hanging fruit for a while. Um, I want to do a jet ski, snowmobile, motorcycle, some small vehicles that have fewer parts and quicker to print and easier to put together. Lawn tractor. I could do that. I could do that. That wouldn't be hard. A lawn tractor, in fact, would be pretty easy. And it could be useful for a diorama piece. So, I may actually do that at some point. So, yeah, and the tricky part that's going to be, and the reason I haven't approached boats and jet skis and stuff like that yet, is I want to design them so that they actually float. And so there's going to be some challenges involved in that. Excuse me. Whether I can make them fully 3D printable that actually float, or whether I'm going to have to come up with something that assists them in floating. Um, Pockets to put some little pieces of styrofoam in, that kind of thing. Of course, there's the jet that is almost done. Yeah, because you can do a pontoon boat pretty easy and design it so that you cut a couple square strips of styrofoam and press up into the pontoon, and then it would float no problem. Um, so yeah, like the GI Joe theme said, we're going to tackle 2019 over land, sea, and air. The plan is by the end of the year is to have things that do all of that, land, sea, and air, because it was a very, very ground-based 2018. Looking at the picture, that's all it is cars and trucks and jeeps and a bus. Maybe that could be in the future. Skalda. I have the fighter jet that is close. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Jet. The fighter jet. Which I still got to design the weapon system and mount the weapons and the landing gear and mount those. And I would like to get my hands on. Excuse me. Gosh. I would like to get my hands on a resin printer at some point to print canopies with, because then you could print them with see-through material. Which there was a guy in Georgia selling a Anycubic photon for $200 if he wasn't in Georgia. It's like, I'm not driving all the way to Georgia. And I contacted him. He won't ship. He wants cash in person on hand. And I'm like, I'm not driving all the way to Georgia, even though that is a good price. $200 for an Anycubic photon that's never been used. it would make it less of a good deal time I spent $100 in gas driving to go get it. So yeah, there's the Jet, which, like I said, I would like. Gosh, I can't stop yawning. Um, I would like to get a resin printer at some point because it would make canopies nicer. Um, because the other options that I have for printing a canopy is to leave it where it has holes in it so that you can see into it, or to make it solid so you can't see into it at all. And I don't like that. You know, it's like I can do it, and when I initially print this Jet, I probably will be that way, where it'll be a solid canopy that you can't see through. But get some like transparent orange or transparent yellow to print canopies with. But so yeah, we got the Jet. There's a couple of helicopters. There's a secret project with the Hawk 3D Proto. There's several more cars and trucks and things like that coming. Like I've even pretty well forgotten about. Where were they? It's under unsorted. This was again just manipulating vertices of the VSV. I made a coupe and a sedan. Where's the sedan? There's the sedan. And the plan is to make a cop car out of the sedan, and maybe just playing around with the coupe, do a couple different things with it. Yeah, a vacuum form, but then I need to stop and build myself a vacuum former. Which I've seen plans for them. They're not hard to make. The biggest challenge I would have there is heating up the plastic, because I would never get my wife to sign off on me heating up the plastic in our kitchen oven. So then I would have to build the heat box and the vacuum for. They're not expensive, but that's time consuming, and time is something that I just don't have a whole lot of between my music career and songwriting career and 3D printing hobby and YouTube. Because I got a writer's round coming up a little bit later this month, which hopefully I'll make some contacts to do some more writing with. And got to hit that hard this time of year when the shows slow down a little bit, because it affords me a little more time to do that. But working 5 days a week, 6 shows a week, and then 6 days a week if you consider the live streams that I was doing musically, which I think my music live streams are going to cut way back. I'm not saying I won't do them at all anymore, but I think they're going to cut way back, because I think people have gotten too used to them. the viewership hasn't been what it was, and I think it's because it was happening too frequently, and people would think, well, I missed him this week. I'll just tune in and catch him next week. So I'm gonna slow down the frequency of those, and also giving me some more time to do some songwriting, which is what I moved to this town to do in the first place, is write songs. So, and I've been too busy to write, and I'm like, okay, the whole reason I came here, I haven't made time for. So, (2019) means some reprioritization and some reorganization. But I enjoy doing this. This is my escape from stress. That's why I don't when things don't work, they don't stress me out. I toss them in the trash can, try again. Because I enjoy doing this. It's a way to unwind. But 2019 is going to be hopefully a great year, and we'll keep doing this. And appreciate you all stopping by and hanging out today, and enjoy sharing what I'm doing with you, and I hope you guys enjoy watching it. So thank you for stopping in and watching today. Thank you for the thumbs up and the subscriptions and all that, and I look forward to where we're going in 2019, and we'll see lots of new vehicles, and we'll meet some new friends along the way, and watch this thing grow. There's also going to be some changes to the channel, and maybe a second channel coming up this year, because I need to I'll keep doing the live streams on one channel, but then I need a separate channel, I think, for tutorials and stuff, to just keep it quick, succinct little videos that people can watch. And so, yeah, everybody tune in tomorrow to Mike Whaley's stream, and thank you for hanging out, and we'll see you next time. You're awesome.